Well, folks, let's head to the dark side. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all doing well out there. Today we're going to head to the dark side. But before we head there, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe. Join me here. I greatly would appreciate that. Today we're going to talk about Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. It's Halloween season, baby, and this is one of those movies I've always watched during Halloween season. And let's see how well it holds up. This movie came out May 4th of 1990. Why May? Who knows? It's rated R. It's an hour and 33 minutes long. Had a budget of $3.5 million, and upon release, it made a little over $16 million. This was directed by John Harrison. John Harrison had directed some of the episodes of the series. The series Tales from the Dark Side ran from 1983 to 1988. And George Romero had a hand in the series, and George Romero produced this film as well. And John Harrison had worked for George Romero because he did the score for the original Creepshow movie and Day of the Dead. So they were very familiar with each other. And Romero was off shooting Two Evil Eyes around the same time. Tom Savini worked with Romero on that, and KNB came in to do the effects for this film. Now, some of the one story in this film, there's three stories with a wraparound, and the one story, The Cat from Hell, which is the second story, actually was supposed to be included on Creepshow 2, but they couldn't do it due to budget restraints, so they kept it for this movie and gave it to Tales from the Dark Side. Now, in this film, we got Deborah Harry. Yes, Deborah Harry playing Betty. She is in the wraparound story, which is kind of like a Hansel and Gretel type story. Matthew Lawrence plays Timmy. He is the kid in the wraparound story that Betty is keeping in a cage in her kitchen or in her pantry because she's going to cook him for dinner. We also got Christian Slater playing Andy in the first story, Lot 249. Also in it, so we got Steve Buscemi. I mean, they have a really good cast here. He plays Bellingham. He is in Lot 249. We got Julianne Moore in her first film, and she plays Susan, and she's also in Lot 249. So they had a stacked cast in that one. We got James Remar as Preston. He is in Lover's Vow. That is the last story of this film. And Rae Dong Chong is in this film as well, and she is in Lover's Vow as well. In the film, we're introduced to Timmy, who is in Betty's pantry in this cage, and she is getting ready to cook him, but he starts reading stories from this book, and that basically goes into our movies, or our little stories here in this anthology film. And the first film is Lot 249, which ends up being a mummy who Bellingham resurrects to take out revenge on people who have wronged him. Christian Slater is his neighbor, and the mummy goes on a killing spree, killing Christian Slater's friend and eventually his sister, because Bellingham realizes that Christian Slater's character's sister screwed him over at the college, and Christian Slater's character Andy gets the upper hand, kills the zombie, but at the end Bellingham gets the upper hand on Andy because he resurrects his sister and his best friend to go and kill Andy. It's a pretty good story with the mummy. It's a fun little tale, and Christian Slater, you can tell, is having a blast. So is Steve Buscemi, so is Julianne Moore. You can tell they're just having a good time here with this little piece of their anthology film here. It's a fun story. It's not overly gory, this one, but there's some cool. The mummy looks badass. It's a fun little story, and it's well acted. The next one is The Cat from Hell. William Hickey is in this part of the film. He plays this old rich guy who's being tormented by this black cat. And William Hickey was Uncle Lewis in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. He was also in some of the Puppet Master films for Charles Band. And he hires this hitman to come and kill this cat, and this is the story that was supposed to be meant for Creepshow 2. Stephen King wrote it specifically for Creepshow 2, but they couldn't do it because of budget restraints, so they put it with this film, and the cat ends up killing the hitman at the end by crawling down his throat and then crawling out of his throat at the end, and William Hickey's character dies of a heart attack because the cat scares the shit out of him, and that is The Cat from Hell. Another fun, cool little story. This isn't my favorite of the three, but it's a solid one. It's fun. John Harrison does a nice job with the lighting and keeping the pace moving. And we do cut back to the wraparound in between these little vignettes to get more of Timmy and Betty until the end of the film. My favorite one of the three main stories here is Lover's Vow with James Remar and Rae Dong Chong. This is basically about a guy who's an artist, but he's down on his luck. He hasn't sold anything in a while, and he goes out and gets drunk one night at this bar he goes to quite often, and when he's getting ready to leave, the bartender follows him out in the alley, and he turns around to take a leak, and the bartender gets torn apart by something, which is like this giant gargoyle, and a very cool effect done by the KNB boys. And he gets scratched on the chest, and the gargoyle makes him promise not to tell anybody about the gargoyle, and if he does that, it'll spare his life, and he agrees. Well, right after this, he meets Ray Dong Chong's character, and they fall in love quickly, end up getting married, have 2 beautiful kids, and he's having all the success in the art world. And then one night, he decides to come clean to his wife because he realizes the one thing he hasn't given her is the absolute truth on the night they met. So he tells her what happened that night, and she starts screaming at him, "You fool!" And she starts ripping her skin off to reveal that she is the gargoyle that attacked him that night and made to deal with him. And she says, "I loved you," and she ends up ripping his head off in a spectacular makeup effects sequence. And that's the end of our main stories, and we get to wrap up with Timmy and Betty. Timmy pushes Betty into the oven, and he is able to escape, and that is basically Tales from the Dark Side. So I love a good anthology film. Creepshow. I like Creepshow 2, although that's not as good as the first one. I love Trick or Treat. I love this one. This is one I grew up on. I was 12 by the time this one came out on home video, but I remember renting this. It was on TV a lot in the 90s at Halloween time, and it's one I've always enjoyed. It has a great cast here. John Harrison keeps it fun and fast-paced. It's only an hour and 33 minutes long. It moves at a quick, brisk pace. It's just one of those movies that I have a good time with. It's a movie I could put on and have a good time with. Me and Dale _ from the Bat Spider podcast watched that Saturday night. He doesn't remember some of those stories, but he had a good time with it as well. I can't give his thoughts on it because he can only do that. But it's a fun anthology film, one I always enjoy watching around this time of the year. Now, Tom Savini, who didn't work on this one, he worked on Two Evil Lies with George Romero instead, considers this the official Creepshow 3, because this basically was going to be Creepshow 3, but they had the rights to Tales from Darkside to show they created, so they made a movie. There was actually going to make a sequel. There was plans for a sequel, but it never made it past the pre-production stages, and it got squashed. This is actually a property I'd like to see revisited. I don't know if we'll ever see that, but we'll see. Maybe, you never know. You never say never. This isn't my favorite anthology film, but I think it's a damn fun one. I would give Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, an 8 out of 10. It's a good time that you can watch. It's a short, quick watch during the Halloween season. This is a good one to put on during a Halloween party if you're having one. It's quick, it's fun, it's funny. There's some cool gore moments throughout the film. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. Have you ever seen this movie? Could you comment down below, let me know. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe button, share this video. I would appreciate that. I'll be back soon with some more reviews, but until then, bye.